Hey everybody, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to my favorite series on my TED Show podcast. This is Transformation Talk. We talk about people who have transformed their lives, had to go through things where they've had to have these experiences that completely change them, transform them. We like to focus on the good, but there's also bad and indifferent and all sorts of crazy things that go on. This is the brainchild of my beautiful co-hostess with the mostest, Donna Morton Morgan. She is here with us, and today she has brought on Emmitt Henderson III. Emmitt is going to come on and talk about male lupus, about lupus and male lupus. He has an organization, a Facebook page, a website page, malelupuswarriors.org. We don't talk enough about this, and I think we need to be educated, and I'm very excited to have Emmitt here to do exactly that. So welcome, everybody. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm blessed to be here, Ted, and I really appreciate, and thank you again, Donna.
Yes. Thank you. You know, I watch Emmitt's journey, and it is not an easy journey, but we will definitely let him, tell us about that. Welcome, everyone. My name is Donna Morton Morgan, and I'm a real estate broker, president of Caribbean American Diaspora Alliance, president of Women of Culture Incorporated, and life coach at Inner Vibez Consulting. And
you gotta love it.
Gotta love the vibes. And I met Emmitt. I think it's been a couple years when we spoke about lupus, and it's not easy to find, first of all, people to share their stories, and then finding males that will disclose this information and just be such an advocate. And I just respect him in all levels, and we are blessed to be able to have him here to share his journey. And if anyone is listening that's struggling with lupus, you don't want to miss this episode. Thank you, Emmitt.
We're excited, Emmitt. Emmitt, we're excited to have you. Tell us a little bit about you. Let's talk about the journey. Let's talk a little bit about you. And then I really do want to dive into lupus because I feel like it's one of the most understood and misdiagnosed things out there. A lot of people go a long time without knowing they have it, and so they struggle with it. The health industry doesn't do a fantastic job of educating nor testing. But before we go into that, let's learn more about you.
Absolutely. Let me start with this first, though. In addition to being such a long time before it's diagnosed, we also have to include that mostly men, and it's been a long time before they even talk about it to anybody as well once they are diagnosed. Sure. So that extends to even longer time. My journey goes back to 1995 when I officially got diagnosed, but yet back in 1980 is when I had symptoms. So for the next 15 years after 1980, I was just a kid trying to live a normal life into a teenager, into adulthood. And then in 1995, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus and lupus nephritis, which involves the kidneys, which is also equal to stage 3 kidney failure. Never heard of lupus before. I was told so many different things in the beginning because of how rare it is. It was rare for my age, my ethnicity, and my gender, but systemic lupus was nothing heard of at all. And then when they told me that it was rare in men, but before I even heard it was rare in men, I was told that it was a woman's disease. So wow. Here in 95, I'm thinking I'm on the top of my game. I'm a successful, at my job. I'm raising 2 kids. I have everything in line the way a young man is supposed to. And then you tell me I got a woman's disease? Yeah, that was a little hard, man, to take. That was a little hard to take. And a lot of it, exactly. It was more like, okay, whatever. Give me my meds so I can go back to work and continue what I'm doing. I wish it was that simple, but it wasn't. Lupus, as we know, is an autoimmune disease where the immune system doesn't know the difference between healthy cells and an infection or a virus. So it attacks everything. I've had almost every organ failure, from kidney failure twice, liver failure, lung failure, heart failure, brain disease, joint involvement, joint replacements, knee replacement, shoulder replacement, skin. I've had almost all of it done, but because of how rare it was in men, it was a lot of unexpected things that came up that even the doctors couldn't tell me what was going on or what was happening. All they can do is treat the symptoms I was having.
Let me ask you about that, because you mentioned that you had been experiencing symptoms 15 years earlier and throughout that time. Can you tell us what those symptoms were?
Absolutely. The symptoms that I was having, which was brought to doctor's attention, was rash on my face and my body and high fevers, constant high fevers. I kept being checked out with no infection. They could not identify the rash on my face or my body, which today we all know is discoid lupus, or the malar rash that we would have butterfly rash on our face. So they took a sample biopsy out of my skin, and I got diagnosed with fevers and rash of unknown origin. It didn't have a title back then. So the best that they can do, take Tylenol, put a cream. They suggested to stay out of the sun, stop eating seafood, some of the major factors that have to do with skin rash. But it was suggested to me because they just thought that it was something that could help. I mean, I dealt with it for so long until, again, the pains, as of opposed to rashes and fevers, became joint pains and lower back pains. And that's when they determined that I need to go in and get checked out.
Wow. And did they have, as you're going through the 15 years before you got diagnosed, what was the final, did they have a blood test? Tell us a little bit about how people actually do discover it, because it's autoimmune. I sense that there's a lot of checking it out and then, okay, that isn't it, and going through that whole process. So what's the eventual way that they found out this is what you have?
Well, let me tell you, you're exactly right. It was a process of elimination is what they were doing for you. And then, of course, as the patient, I was going through it all. But blood tests, for one, will definitely detect certain things. And if they suspect that it's not something that's an immediate organ, then they do check, the hematology, they check blood to where they want to make sure that it's not considered anything else. So ANA, autoimmune tests are done. ANA, basically, there's a double-stranded DNA to check specifically for autoimmune progress. But the thing is, though, as a young man, that's the last thing they expected. So none of that was on the top list to be checked.
It's crazy. And it's interesting because you're right. I've always thought of it as primarily women. And I've heard, I have friends that have been diagnosed, all women. They're probably the first man I've met that talks about it. I'm sure they've had it, but why was it such a unique thing for men? Is it statistically that men don't get it as much as women?
I think that's just it. At the time that I was diagnosed, I went through all these doctors in the hospital that checked for every disease and illness that they could think of, but nobody checked for lupus because it was uncommon that it was for men. And so when I finally heard the term rheumatologist is coming to see me, I never heard of that term, didn't know what it was, but her field is these type of diseases. And she says that it's rare, but it's possible. And I happen to be one of that 10% statistic with lupus.
So what do you do with that? You said you had a successful business. What do you do with that? Do you immediately, because I heard you say, which that's exactly what I would have said, okay, give me my pills so I can go back to my life. What do you do with that? Do you initially become an advocate like you are now, or did you have to kind of go through a process to get there?
Ted, it was a process, definitely. Remember, this is in the mid-90s where, Google wasn't even around for me to educate myself on what lupus was. So if you're going to tell me that, and this is the type of person that I am, that I was raised, if you're going to tell me that I have a woman's disease and I'm going to be limited in life, I'm already in denial and not listening to any of that. So I literally take that attitude with me, leave the hospital and try to just be me. But unfortunately, there were so many obstacles that kept me from being me. but I've learned to manage through it. Now, let's fast forward to 2019, after having all these failures, all of these new diagnoses of new autoimmune diseases, all of these surgeries, procedures, clinical trials, transplants I've been through. 2019, now I'm diagnosed with a brain disease. So through the years, in 95 on, I maintained work because I was good at what I did. It's just that I took the necessary time off for surgeries or procedures, and it was allowed. They were like, nope, you get ready to come back when you come back. So I was blessed in that part. Every time I came back to work, this was my hustle. This was my way of saying, you know, you have to keep working. You have kids to support. You have a life to live, and you're not going to slow down. So 2019, when they told me now I got a brain disease and they're not going to let me go back to work because of the medications, that was more devastating than hearing I had lupus to me. Right. That was more devastating than that, because my habit was always a go-getter in work, and I always done that. So I had to turn to something else. And that's when advocacy came into play. I decided to talk about a disease that debilitated me for so many years. And let me talk about how I got through it to help you get through it.
It's a beautiful.
And that's kind of everything that I've started out with it. And that's the way, and that's where I'm at today, should I say. And since then, in 2019, yeah, I could think I say I've pretty much grown in this advocacy field as a male with lupus and helping with men's mental health.
You know, men don't. Go ahead, Donna. I've been doing all the talking.
You're
not on delay, so we're good. Go ahead.
I get to see the journey, and I get to see the days, and I get to see the pictures on dialysis and the pain and the you know, and it's, you've got to be so strong. You have been so strong through this journey that I see. I was blessed to really just come across you. And yeah, you were the first, because, you know, male. So that, you know, that was wow, just to find that out. Do we know now if, is there anything we can do with diet or anything like that to change anything?
Well, of course, the main things for anybody's health and any type of illness: diet, exercise, and for me personally, strength up here. Strength in your mental health, where I put a post today about that. You know, mentally being strong will help you physically as well. And I'm a believer in that. I've always had not so much the denial anymore about having lupus, but I've had that it's not going to take me out of living my life. Yes, I am in my second kidney failure now. I was doing dialysis 6 days a week, 4 to 5 hours a day, and I'm down to 5 now, and that's an improvement, actually. So I'm down to 5. I am here now and traveled to Atlanta from San Diego, 2-day drive. It still didn't stop me. My machine is sitting on the counter right here, and I plug into this every morning that I'm here, except for a day off. So the thing about that, though, is that there's so many other types of, you know, procedures and ways we can help ourselves before letting the doctors help us as well. And a lot of us need to do that. We need to look into what's best for us. Talk to it, of course, with your doctor. But I always say, don't let the doctor be the only one helping you. You help you. You tell the doctors what you need and be the forefront in that conversation to let them give you the answers you're looking for. If you can't find it from your doctor, go to another one or do the research yourself. But we need to be forward about our own health, because at the end of the day, we are the patients that our improvement is based on our attitudes and how we go about looking to improve that.
So you launch, and I love that because it's true. It's true for any advocacy on any level, but on your health, you have got to be your own best advocate and have a voice. Were you surprised? So you launched Male Lupus Warriors. You've got malelupuswarriors.org, y'all, just scrolling across the bottom there. Did you immediately get response? Have you been surprised by the response? Talk about that, because I think that's so important for people to have a resource from somebody who's been dealing with it.
And with that said, Ted, the reason why I decided to do this is because in 95, the early 2000s, with all the problems that I had, there was no male support group I could turn to and say, guys, how are we getting through this? Even at that, I didn't know if there were even lupus support groups that I can say, hey, I am a patient with lupus and I'm a guy, but how do I go about getting through all this? None of that was there for me. So I've had to depend on myself to try to get through maintaining work, maintaining raising kids, maintaining my household, all of that with this debilitating disease. So when I decided to create my organization, the focus on that was to let people know, first and foremost, men get lupus too. Okay. Second of all, if we continue with our mental health strength, we can get over this physically, and to be that voice that wasn't there for me in the 90s and 2000s. And when I did open up my first thought of picking up a pen to write out the name of the organization, put it out on social media, it was a little ghost town at first, because I don't know if people knew that guys do get lupus and who is this guy talking about it. And then, the females would talk about, hey, I have lupus too. But I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Well, where are the brothers at? Where the men at? Where are the guys at that me and them can relate? And it did take some time. But of course, just like anything starting off, you just have to be consistent, be there, and people will show up. And I think at this point, I've got a lot of people to show up for me.
What's the biggest change in the way that the medical community is dealing with, treating, recommending, advocating? Because I feel like this has been a progression as more people become diagnosed, and social media has allowed for this kind of advocacy to be worldwide. Have you seen changes in the protocol? Have you seen changes in, Donna mentioned it earlier, are there diet changes? Are there med changes? Are there what have you seen now that you're either excited about or you're hopeful for?
A big part of it is that the autoimmune community is getting more attention towards care, not just care in medical, but there's people out there that do specific physical workouts to work with the autoimmune community. You could be disabled, but I could tell you and find you a program that has to do with you not leaving a chair, but working out. You know what I'm saying? And then there's diets that help the autoimmune community. Of course, the obvious of no salt and sweets, but then implementing a lot of the herbs that help certain part of the autoimmune community that are struggling through some of these parts in their health. So focusing on specifics is what a lot of us in the system look for. We can always do a simple cardio because it's good for everybody's health to sweat and get your energy going. But again, what if I'm disabled? What if I can't go walk? Help me with something else. And there are programs out there. So I try to get involved with as many as I can. I have been involved with so many of that. And again, as a guy, I can tell you too, I may look strong but inside you don't know the story. I got a disease that slows me down. So what I can do to help you and give you information from outside resources, I will spread that word to you in a heartbeat.
And I feel like that's what I've got a long guy. So all my people know when I have the show at home, here goes the long guy. But I feel like one of the things that people go to groups for, because things work differently for each person, and they're looking for things to try, and they're looking for people's success stories and things that didn't work. But in reality, they're also looking for that support. Oh my God, I'm not alone. Oh my God, there's other guys who've been diagnosed with this, especially in your case. And that must be uplifting. Has this shifted your life's work, your life's mission? Has this become your ministry, for lack of a better word?
You can say that, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I got to come first. I have to make sure I'm okay to be able to do what I do for others and help others. Because if I'm not, then I'm only hurting myself. The first, thing that I do is I make sure that I get what I need to do for me. Yes, dialysis. If I can't make certain events because of that, then unfortunately I just can't. Luckily for me, they're telling me just reschedule. We still want you anyway. So that's a good thing. But when it comes to just being healthy and knowing what is out there now, yes, I want to share it as much as we can because we can all use it. And that's when I go back to saying you have to help you. The information to help us all is out there. But if we don't look for it, unfortunately, it just doesn't land in our lap. We have to be, like you had said, our own self-advocate to look out there. What is going to help me in this way, in that way, and how can I benefit from it? Reach out if you have to. Some people, I always say that I'm open. You want to email me, you want to message me, you want to know how I go through things and how I get through it, I can tell you, but I'm not going to tell you to use that as a tool, because I'm going to show you how you can get through it, not how I got through it.
You know, Emmitt, you just mentioned salt and sugar, two important things so even just that information can help someone, because sometimes people don't change their eating habits at all whatsoever. Alcohol, everything is the same, the food. So just you mentioning and giving us those tips is so important for someone that may be listening and just don't even have the that resource. So thank you just for sharing that, which I know salt and sugar is the two
I'm going to pretend I
main
didn't hear that one. I think she's right. I think Donna's so right. And I want to piggyback on that really quick as we start to wrap up, Emmitt. If somebody's out there and they're experiencing some of the things, because I guarantee you people are now going to go to Male Lupus Warriors. They're going to start doing some research, especially the men out there or the wives, significant others of the men out there who might be experiencing this. What's a test or what's a recommendation when they go to their healthcare provider? Hey, have you tested me for this? Can you give them an example of something they can specifically ask for to get that ball rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I like what you have said. If they were to go in and say, have you tested me for this? But even before that, you need to do your education on what it possibly is. If you suspect that you could possibly have something like another guy is saying, hey, I've had joint problems, I've had the fatigue, I've had the fevers, I've had the sickness, maybe I have lupus. Research lupus if you're not familiar with it. And then let's see that if you qualify for certain markers that lupus says you may have. And if you do, then it's something definitely to ask. So, again, a closed mouth, we know, does not get fed. We know that. So being a self-advocate, going in there, of telling the doctors, not only telling them what you have, but if you suspect you have symptoms, write them down. Write them down that you had these symptoms, when you had them, what you think may have caused them or triggered them, then bring them to your doctor. The more the doctor knows, the more they can tell you.
Amen, my friend. All right. What is the best way for them to find out more about you, more about Male Lupus Warriors? How can they reach out to you, Emmitt?
Definitely reach out to me through my website, which is malelupuswarriors.org. My email is malelupuswarriors@gmail.com. And then you can follow me on social medias on TikTok and Instagram at Male Lupus Warriors. And then on Facebook under my full name, as you see under my picture there, Emmitt Henderson III.
What a blessing to have you on, my friend. The transformation, this is what this show is all about. Sharing information, especially on something that is going underdiagnosed. And that even though it's better than it was in 1980 or 1980 or 1995, it's getting better. And people like you are inspiring people to get out and demand and advocate for themselves. And I think that that's such a blessing. So thank you for being on the show. Come back anytime. I know there's a lupus awareness month. We got to have you on for that. But y'all check out malelupuswarriors.org. Find out more. If you suspect anything, do your research and be your own best advocate. Thank you, Emmitt. Thank you, Donna. We appreciate you all. If you have a story that you want to share and you've been transformed or want other people to be transformed, please reach out to us. What a blessing. God bless you both. Thank you, Emmitt. Thank you, Donna. We'll see everybody soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.